It is a quiet Sunday morning in 1971 when the foundations of the modern world are rewritten. With a single televised announcement, the link between money and gold is severed. What follows is the birth of a phantom economy. Money, once a physical promise, transforms into a digital decree. Since that moment, global debt has taken on a life of its own, ballooning into a staggering $345 trillion. To put that in perspective, that is 3 times the size of every single thing produced on Earth in a year. We are living in a world that is effectively spending money it hasn't earned yet, and the numbers are only getting bigger. But if you look closely at the ledger, things get strange. The United States owes China nearly $800 billion. Yet China itself is buried under $18 trillion of debt. Much of that debt is held by Chinese banks, which in turn own American debt. American banks are holding debt from Europe, Japan, and the Middle East. It is a dizzying carousel of IOUs. If everyone owes money to everyone else, where is the money actually going? The answer is both simple and terrifying. The world owes money to itself. We have built a global civilization on a massive circular promise, and it only works as long as nobody stops to check the math. For thousands of years, it was a local bond. You borrowed a bag of grain from a neighbor and paid it back after the harvest. It was a tool for survival. But as empires grew, so did the complexity of borrowing. The real shift happened in the late 17th century when the British government needed to fund a massive war but had no cash. Their solution was revolutionary. They created a bank to lend the state money in exchange for bonds that could be sold to the public. For the first time, a nation's debt became a tradable product. This turned debt from a burden into a motor for growth. It allowed states to build navies, railroads, and factories without waiting to collect taxes. By the 20th century, this system went into overdrive. 2 world wars forced nations to borrow at scales previously unimaginable. The system didn't just survive, it became the bedrock of the global economy. Today, debt is no longer an emergency measure. It is the oxygen of the modern state. It is how schools are built, how roads are paved, and how social safety nets are maintained. In the United States, roughly 1 out of every $4 spent by the government is borrowed. In China, that figure is nearly as high. If governments stopped borrowing tomorrow, the global engine would seize. Businesses would collapse, paychecks would stop, and the modern world would grind to a terrifying halt. But there is a dark side to this perpetual motion machine. When a country's debt to GDP ratio crosses the 100% mark, a dangerous threshold is reached. At this point, the interest payments alone begin to eat the budget alive. Wealthy nations like Switzerland or Germany can manage this because investors trust them. But for developing nations, the cycle is a trap. They are forced to take out new loans just to pay the interest on the old ones. It is a treadmill that only moves faster. When trust fades, the only remaining tool is the printing press. We've seen the results in places like Zimbabwe or Venezuela, where money becomes so worthless it's used as kindling. In our current system, we have replaced physical value with collective belief. We believe that tomorrow will be more productive than today, and therefore we can borrow against that future. This belief fuels the feedback loop. Debt creates growth, growth creates more room for debt, and the cycle repeats. But what happens when the growth can no longer keep up with the interest? We are currently adding trillions to the global debt pile every few years. We are essentially betting that the future is infinite. We must ask ourselves, is this a sustainable path or a grand illusion? We have built a world where stability depends on constant expansion, fueled by money that doesn't exist. In physics, there is no such thing as a perpetual motion machine. We are participating in the largest financial experiment in human history, and we are all stakeholders in the outcome. The question isn't whether the debt will be paid back. In the traditional sense, it never will be. The question is how long the world can continue to believe in the promise. As we move further into this era of astronomical numbers, the line between wealth and debt continues to blur. We are all part of this interconnected web, tied together by digital zeros and the hope that the carousel never stops turning. In the end, the world might not be owned by any one nation or king, but by the massive, invisible ledger that connects us all. This is KyneAndCo, exploring the hidden forces that shape our reality. The math may be complex, but the reality is simple. We are all living on borrowed time.